solo taxonomy is worth speaking about. Something that I started playing around with in September. It's something that I feel really evangelical about. I've certainly seen the benefits in my own classroom. For those of you that haven't come across it before, we'll try and share some of the basics. It'll be a little bit crude, there's a lot more to it than this, but perhaps I'll be able to give you a sense of the possibilities that it presents in the classroom for all age groups. This fetched up on our shores in 1982 from New Zealand, where it's taking off like the following, and it's used at a reception level, junior school level, and so on, at senior school level. Essentially, it's a kind of a route map from qualitative or shallow learning to qualitative or deep learning. And most importantly of all, it's a route map that you can share with your children. You can introduce this to them, and they can become more independent in their learning because they understand how to progress. So, why solo and not Bloom? Some of you will be familiar with Bloom's taxonomy as well. Essentially, it's a lot more straightforward, whereas Bloom's is based on research carried out by classroom administrators, educational administrators, so it can't be good. This is based on classroom research. Hattie, those of you that like educational research, Hattie is dead keen on this. It's far, far clearer. Whereas in Bloom's you get a degree of overlap, so identify appears in both knowledge and comprehension, compare and contrast, appears in both evaluation and analysis. Solo is far more streamlined, and so it's far more user-friendly. The result of that is that once you've introduced it to your children, they will begin to make use of it. And they will begin to, and you will find them coming to you and saying things like, sir, I've identified, you won't get them to say things like, sir, I've identified my race, analysed. You will get them saying things like, Miss, I've got lots of multi-structural knowledge where I need help get into relation. I just realised I missed out a really crucial bit when I explain how the thing works. Essentially, I'm going to make an example from learning slide, which we're following. You've got 5 stages. Reach an extended abstract state by thinking about that in an entirely new way. So, at a relational stage, you might be able to work out that the reason a volcano is cone-shaped is because magma is kicked out, its molten rocket cools down, you know, the cone-shaped kind of thing. At an extended abstract level, you might ask yourself, well, what would happen perhaps if this volcano was erupting under the sea, or something like that? How would that change things? So, as I was saying, that takes us on this idea that it's far more streamlined. The children begin to use this rather space-age language onto this self-assessment rubric. Because it's so streamlined, because it's so easy, because it's such an easy to get a handle on the solo verbs, children are very quickly able to work out where they are in relation to any topic at all. And I've started to take some baby steps in relation to co-construction, something I'm very interested in doing. And solo is a very good way of approaching that. You can ask children, for instance, what learning might look like at a relational level in regard to, I'm an English teacher, head of English and married, I should have said that as well, I suppose. And in relation to a particular sequence of poems, asking where they're up to, if they're making connections, if not, probably multi-structural, what might learning look like at a relational level in this lesson. You can co-construct with learning outcomes together. Differentiation, again, incredibly simplified in that. So it can be very, very impressive if you're a big observer, or very, very powerful for children. Once they can self-assess, they're able to make selections. And then they're able to say, well, I'm working at the multi-structural level. I need to pick up a task pack which contains tasks which involve that kind of a level of task. And you find that when you've got sort of cheeky, arrogant boys who think they can start at an extended abstract level, they very quickly have to move backwards and pick up a multi-structural task or something like that. So they self-differentiate, a little bit like self-leveling concrete or whatever, they find their own level. Solo stations is something that was devised by this chap, Tony Wyatt, who's a scientist. Again, that works very well. You set up a sequence of tasks around the room, children self-assess, they decide where they should begin, they enter at that point, if they've got it wrong, they move backwards. They can move backwards and forwards between the task stations as they go along. Again, it works very, very well. You see children self-differentiating, adjusting their view of where they're at, and essentially leading their own learning. Okay, very, very quickly. Literacy. If you want to embed continual lessons, they're absolutely integral. So when it comes to connectives, so when I'm doing a solo stations kind of task at a relational level, and I want them to do a piece of writing, I will give them a series of phrases or connectives that they will use to structure their writing and help them to make those kinds of connections. Finally, I suppose, it's a nice way of thinking about how we are as teachers. At a pre-structural level, I have no idea what I'm doing, why to employ me. At an extended abstract level, my lessons are centered on developing deeper thinking and understanding the subject. As a result, my students make accelerated progress over time. I develop skills that students will use outside of my lessons in the future. I foster dialogue about learning students and change what I do in order to maximise depth of learning, thinking, and understanding. We assess ourselves using this model as well. Excellence as well. Great for moving children to a multi-structural level where they have lots of ideas to begin to make connections. Because of 6 sides, you can connect your hexagons up and you can begin to find patterns, connections, and that will move you up to a kind of relational level. People you can follow, Pam Hopkins, the New Zealander, who was excellent on this in particular. David Fawcett for PE has done a huge amount of work, something what I mentioned before. In science, also fantastic for his work on prompt learning. He's got a book on Amazon at the moment, something I admire very much. Geography, a fellow called John Sayers as well, who I put there, his hand in his hat, John Sayers. Acknell and that the third day. English, Lisa Jane Ashley's learning inspired people called the BI blog on solo, and then #solo long. So there we are.